I get a lot of people asking me how we were blessed to walk away from corporate America in our early 30s. Well, listen, I don't want to keep that a secret. I want to share it with the world. And so maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're trying to figure out, how do I even get started on my journey of entrepreneurship and getting to a level of freedom? Well, text the word freedom to 737 777 9909. Enter your information in, and we look forward to sharing some information with you. A proven system with small overhead, right? That you can do part-time, spare time, right from the comfort of your home, and have amazing mentors, coaches, and a community of entrepreneurs who are willing to support you and help you on your journey to freedom. Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt like there's got to be more than life than the reality that you see every day? Tune in weekly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays as we crack the codes to freedom in every area of your life. The Code Freedom. This is your host, Eddie Bales, and this is episode 224. And I'm excited to be with you all today. And we're going to talk about what really is holding us back, some of us, something that's holding a lot of us back. And that is, well, let me just read Mark Zuckerberg's quote. It's a pretty good quote. He says, "The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that is changing really quick, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks." So I've always said this. So I don't know how Mark Zuckerberg gets credit for this quote because I've always said the biggest risk is not taking a risk at all. And so, the thing about it is, I looked up the word risk, and it said a situation involving exposure to danger. And I think that's really what happens a lot of times, is that people think that taking a risk, they're going to have an insane amount of danger. But if you understand and if you live by the philosophy of you never lose, you only learn, then taking risk is significantly important, because it's the only way we can learn is by, it's like, if we don't take risk, number one, we stay in our comfort zone, but number two, we don't really learn anything because we stay in the same place. It's kind of like living in the same place all your life and never exploring past the city limits, past the country, past the city, and getting into another state. And by the way, I know a lot of people that have never left this state. And that's okay. But wouldn't you want to go experience things in a different way? I know people who they don't want to try different meals, right? Like, they're afraid to try different things. Look, the only way you'll learn if you like something is if you try it. If you don't like it, boom, then just move on. But don't be in a place where you don't take action on things because of being afraid to, right? Because we have to be willing to accept things are not always going to go the way we want it to go. But we have to understand that the only way, it's just like working out. The only way you can build muscle is by breaking them down. The only way we can succeed is if we fail. The only way we can learn is if we experience new things. We can learn in head knowledge and reading and getting factual knowledge. But what about experience knowledge, where we actually apply things and then we see if it works? And we test those things that we know out, so it could turn into a greater understanding and even wisdom, right? Because wisdom is really knowing what to do and when to do it, not just knowing something. So risk is important. Another definition of risk said the possibility that something unpleasant or unwelcome will happen. Well, look, the way I look at it, if we don't take a risk, something unpleasant or unwelcome will happen. And what is that? That means things are going to stay the same. I heard someone say before, I don't want to be involved in business because I like to know when my check is coming and how much it's going to be. And the person said, "Well, that's interesting because I don't like to know what it's going to be." Meaning that I don't want to be one of the folks that the check is going to be the same every 2 weeks and I know what to look forward to. Yes, that could be somewhat comforting knowing what it's going to be. But what if you could have that exciting ride of knowing that you could put the work in and you can earn 10 times that amount? Have you ever wanted to invest in the stock market, but you just didn't know how? That's exactly where I found myself. Is I just didn't know what to pick it, when to sell it, all of that good stuff. But I found an online community. I've been with this community for about a year now, and I love it. It's amazing. They discuss things like generational wealth, stock options, investing, business strategy, and so much more. So, online community that will support, encourage, and hold each other accountable to achieving goals and striving for greatness. So, we talk about things like get money and buy income, but how do you buy income? What do you buy? Well, these are the types of things that we talk about in this community, and I think you'll enjoy it. So if you'd like to be a part of it, you get a special link. It's bit.ly /wealth squad 3. That's bit.ly /wealth squad 3. And you get a chance to be a part of this amazing community. And let's grow together. Every episode we talk about stretching ourselves and growing ourselves and becoming better. And I get it. You're busy, you're on the go. You don't always have time to stop and maybe read a book. Well, listen, I got the perfect thing for you. You're probably familiar with Audible. Audible is an audiobook service from Amazon, and they offer the world's biggest selection of books. I'm talking any book that I've recommended, and I've recommended a lot. You can get that book and you can listen to it on the go while you're in the car. Why not turn your car into Drive Time University? And for just for listening to this podcast, you can get your first 30 days free on us. So go to audibletrial.com /code freedom. That's audibletrial.com /code freedom. And we'll also put that in the show notes. Wouldn't that be awesome? And knowing that you literally can dictate what it's going to look like, what it's going to be. You know what I mean? That's the life of an entrepreneur. That's the life of living for profits rather than for wages. Is understanding that we get to be in control and we get to steer the ship, and because of that, putting the risk on the line, we get a chance to be rewarded for it. In fact, one of the definitions, and I didn't pull this up, but one of the definitions of being an entrepreneur is someone who's willing to put the risk on the line. Because the person that shows up for the job, they didn't put any risk on the line. They just showed up and they just perform a task. But the person that's an entrepreneur, they took the risk. They actually put some money in to have the potential to have a service, a product, or something that someone's going to purchase. And then they get a chance to get a return for that. Now, obviously, if you're going to be the entrepreneur, you get the greater risk to reward. You get the greater reward because you put in more risk versus the person that just showed up. So you get what I'm saying is that risk is extremely important. Now, of course, I'm not talking about just making unwise risks. You can make very calculated risk. You can look at the history of things. You can look at, I'm not saying you got to be an analytical person and like overanalyze to the point where you don't take risk. But what I'm saying is you can make sure investments. You can make sure risk. And by the way, risk is not just when it comes to money either. So let me say that. Like for instance, and I kind of touched on this, but what if you hired a therapist for your relationship or for your mentor, right? And when I say mentor, I'm not even talking about being crazy or anything like that. I'm just talking about to be in a better place and to have tools that could help you cope with certain things that you're dealing with, right? So, what if you got a therapist and allowed yourself to be vulnerable and uncomfortable, sharing yourself in terms of sharing your vulnerabilities with somebody? Or even not just from a standpoint of uh, therapy, but also just relationships, being willing to be vulnerable. Because here's the deal: if you want to learn, if you want to love, you have to be willing to be vulnerable enough where you could be hurt, right? Like for my wife has the power to hurt me, but she also has the power to love me. I choose to believe that the love is going to be there. Can she hurt me? Yes, absolutely. Will she? I hope not. But I'm willing to risk it all for the love, right? And that's all we're saying is be willing to risk it all. And so, of course, I'm not talking. Like I said, I'm not talking about putting yourself in a position where you're going to be constantly harmed or in danger, as the definition says. But what I'm basically saying is putting yourself in position where you have a higher reward, whether it's health, spiritual, physical, financial, career, business, any of those things, putting yourself in a position where you have a bigger reward because you are willing to put a bigger risk on the line. Does that make sense? Right? Let's talk about health. I'm obviously not a health expert. And guys, listen, I'm excited because we're going to have some really cool guests on the show in the upcoming week, literally this week. So stay tuned. But I'm not a health expert, but let me just say this: what if you had a health coach? What if you had a nutritionist? What if you had a fitness coach that could say, "Hey, I'm good." Maybe you never tried it before. Maybe you did new exercises. Maybe, like for instance, you know, I'm not a yoga person. Maybe that might be something to try. Being open and willing to put the risk on the line and say, "Hey, look, I'll try it out. I'll try anything at least once just to see what the experience can be." You get what I'm saying? So anyway, I hope this is resonating with someone because we can't have freedom and not take risks. It's just almost impossible. It is impossible because the only way you can get the rewards that come from having freedom is by taking risks. The very nature of freedom is risking it so that you can get the reward in your pocket. So listen, I hope you got some value. This is episode 224. Share this with somebody. Don't forget, if you're looking at us on YouTube, to subscribe to our channel and share it with some more people. Join our Facebook community so we can keep this conversation going even further. And it's just an honor and pleasure to be here with you guys. God bless, and we'll see you over the top. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. Definitely feel free to take a screenshot of this episode, tag me in it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you find me on social media. I would love to give you a shout out. Hey, you might even get a prize. Who knows? But excited that you had a chance to take a listen. I hope you got a lot of value. And definitely feel free to give us 5 stars as well as a review. Show us some love, and we appreciate you. God bless you all, and see you all over the top.